So we're going to be doing shorter episodes that are more focused and pretty in-depth about things. So this episode, we're going to do distillate versus full spectrum and more of kind of like a vaping type realm that we're going to enter in. Correct?
Yep.
Heck yeah. So I don't know a lot about this topic. Ray's definitely more the expert, especially in concentrates. So she's going to lead the wave. But full spectrum versus distillate. So let's kind of backtrack quite a bit. When we talk about this, we're talking about how the plant is extracted, how it's basically, you have a vape cartridge, right? You have a little pen. It's probably the most convenient way that people smoking cannabis nowadays. You see them all the time. It could be nicotine or cannabis, but it's those little vape cartridges we're talking about ultimately.
Yeah, especially because at least in California, you're seeing a lot more different types of vape cartridges. So, of course, you have, the ones that are super potent, 99%, different crazy flavors like grape ape and a lot of different fruity stuff, and then more traditional as well. And then you're seeing like the sauce pens, which are newer, which is more full spectrum, and we're going to obviously get into that.
Gotcha. And yeah, the things that you see that's like 99% THC, like they're just trying to boast that THC percent versus like anything else, like the cannabinoid profile and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to like sell that hard, correct?
Yeah, well, and a lot of those are, again, just going to be distillate and then adding the terpenes back in, which, things have their pros and cons. But basically, full spectrum is when the concentrate produced is preserving a lot of the cannabinoid and terpene contents from the raw cannabis plant. So they're basically keeping all of the desirable compounds, you could say, in the plant without altering them through a process of like decarboxylation or oxidation.
Okay.
And this is basically, removing some of like the fats and lipids from the plant, but it's keeping everything else.
Okay, so it's kind of basically keeping all the good stuff and leaving the stuff that's kind of unnecessary. It's not going to affect you in any way. The fibers and the fats and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like the stuff that you would get from the plant.
Gotcha. So the stuff that when you're smoking on flower, it's not necessarily the good parts. Because when you smoke flower like out of a bong or whatever pipe, you're not getting all good stuff, correct?
Well, technically the cannabis plant has like over 400 different compounds. Mm-hmm. So of course, when you're extracting and creating some sort of concentrate from the flower, it's going to be different and more refined. Okay. But I mean, obviously the whole plant isn't necessarily bad for you, but we are seeing like certain parts of the plant, especially in different strains they can be more prominent in, are like beneficial for different things. So people are trying to
preserve those.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. And just to, again, go to the basics, we're talking about you see these vape cartridges, and we're basically trying to tell you that not all of them are made the same. And
yeah, you're right.
A lot of them out there are, I would say 80-90% are distillate, which is what?
Well, distillate is, basically the most potent form. I guess you could say it's the most bang for your buck, and it's basically just the THC. Okay,
so they get literally the whole plant, whether it's, it's not even going to be fresh rosin. It's going to be a dry plant. And when they go to extract it, they're removing everything, all the cannabinoids besides THC. So we're talking your CBA, CBD, CBN, all that kind of good cannabinoids that are going to affect you a certain way. They're taking all that out. And they're literally just giving you the psychoactive part. So kind of, I made an analogy to Ray earlier. It's kind of like having a car frame as the distillate product, and then full spectrum as the whole car.
Well, no, not even that. Yeah, I would say like the THC you can say is like the engine, because that's the part that's like the main part, Okay. And it's like the most potent, crazy, like
what everybody is attracted to.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, I guess, there are also like different ways to refine distillate. So, that even gets super complex.
Okay.
But I like how, and some of my favorite cartridges are by Friendly Farms, and a lot of their marketing material had described it as like fresh squeezed orange juice versus from concentrate.
Okay.
So they like to, be getting, the full spectrum within their cartridges as well, which some people don't even have access to this stuff, but it is just good to know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, most definitely. And what I was telling Ray earlier is, yeah, a lot of people are just getting distillate cartridges for now. And which is, I mean, it stinks that a lot of people don't have access to a plethora of cartridges or a plethora of cannabis in general. We're getting there, but I'd rather y'all be educated going into these medicinal places when your time calls, when your state allows for it. But yeah, this is something that hopefully, if you have access to a full spectrum versus a distillate, you'll lean toward the full spectrum.
But I mean, even people should know too that this is applicable to like CBD. So I mean, a CBD distillate might be more applicable to certain people, but you can also get full spectrum CBD as well. So the same thing applies.
Heck yeah. Good. I'm glad to know that. So I know that you were talking about earlier, you can basically fresh frozen, which is when you cut down the plant from harvest. So it's ready to go. You can either dry it and leave it out to dry for 5 to 10 days, cure it, or you can literally, as soon as you chop it, you put it in the farmers put in humongous coolers pretty much.
Yeah, it's like a walk-in dry freezer, and I'm emphasizing dry. It's like below negative 400 degrees.
Holy shit.
Which is like instantly freezing, because you have to think about it too. They don't want any moisture. They literally want it to instantly freeze.
To preserve every cannabinoid possible.
As if it was still like the living plant, basically.
Wow, that's crazy.
And so, yeah, that full spectrum ranges, like if you were to take a plant, chop it down, and exactly cut it in half, put half of it to dry and cure the normal way, and then the other half fresh frozen.
Okay.
Those two products are going to be completely different if you're putting them through an extraction process, because even through drying and curing, you are losing some different terpenes, and different things are changing throughout that process.
Okay.
As opposed to just immediately freezing it.
I mean, that makes sense, because when you cut the plant down, even our garden, when you cut the plant down, it smells so good, so fresh. And then 5 to 10 days later, when you have it dried and cured, it's not the same potency to your nose, that smell is kind of lost.
But I think connoisseurs might like either or as well, because sometimes some different plants and strains are better when they're dried and cured a little bit.
Now, this is still full spectrum, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, so the full spectrum versus distillate, correct, is like the process, the extraction process, and how much you're refining it.
Right. So you're leaving all the cannabinoids, and you're not just taking just THC out. You're leaving all the good stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. But what you're saying is those two processes, one's fresh frozen and one's dried. But either way, they're still full spectrum.
Exactly.
Cool. Heck yeah. And so you're telling me that it's whole nug versus what were the two?
Fresh frozen, basically.
Yeah. So
live resin is what you could consider the frozen half.
Okay, and that's
gonna be like sauces and different types of concentrates like that.
Okay, and then the process A, where it's dried, is whole nug. Whole nug, and then what was the other term? I forget. Whole plant or something.
Well, those are the same thing. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whole plant is what you could say.
Gotcha. Now, I would think most of the time you would want all the cannabinoids, so fresh frozen. So we're talking sauces and live resin. Okay, that's like the money. That's the glory hole. Is that a good analogy?
Sure.
Oh man. So what do you like? What's your favorite?
I mean, right now I'm, of course, concentrates. I like the terpiest stuff, so I like the fresh frozen a lot.
Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not the highest THC percentage. It's not like 99%.
No, not necessarily, but you're getting more of the cannabinoids. So, I mean, everybody's cannabinoids are
everybody's endocannabinoid system's different, for sure. But nonetheless, saying that it's still gonna better affect you if it's full spectrum versus distillate.
Well, I mean, yes, of course, me and you, we like to get all different cannabinoids, but some people do like to just recreationally have the THC.
Just the THC, yeah.
And distillate and flavors.
To speak on my behalf, on my experience with distillate, I it's always the same high for me, and it's not as intense. It's a quicker high to come on, correct? Like it hits me within, I don't know, 30 seconds to 2 minutes, right? But it doesn't last as long, and it's just not, I don't know, it's just like a head high, and it's just not very, it's not the most enjoyable.
Well, but the pros to me too are like if you're smoking those in public places or trying to be more discreet or you don't want people to know you're smoking weed, like those are better.
Cough, cough, corporate people at work.
You know?
Yeah. You hit that in your smoke break, ain't no one gonna know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But exactly, it's like the high hits you instantly, but it doesn't really last long because the terpenes and all the cannabinoids are what kind of help give you those different effects.
1,000,000%. Yeah, it's well, because I originally thought it was all terpenes that kind of help that, but it's cannabinoids and terpenes that just make up
and
how you feel.
And all of it together is the synergy.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense.
Versus just having one isolated thing.
Right, just THC.
Yeah.
AKA distillate. Wow.
But distillate does have a wide variety of uses, and if you've seen them in the syringes, it has many applications. Like Lauren was saying in our last episode, she'll drip that under her tongue. Okay. Or you can drip it in a tea or a different food, or you can dab it like normally.
Yeah.
So there's all different applications for that.
Okay. Now, if we're talking, I've seen this on the rise big time. Black market, all these vape cartridges getting produced. Your vape cartridge is going to look like very light yellow, golden. It's most of the color is going to be taken out if it's a distillate. And I would say 80 to 90% of the carts on black market is distillate, and it's just going to be your mass-produced cannabis oil, and then whatever terpenes, if they want to reintroduce any terpenes to it, they will do so.
Well, and of course, like the only way for you to really know is to see any kind of test results, and of course, if that's like there's no batch number or something on it.
Yeah, if you're buying your shit black market, your best guess it's going to be distillate.
Yeah,
unless you're paying.
But a lot of other states are different too. I mean, we saw when Florida first was, doing their pens, they were a lot different, like darker oils. So California has come a long way as far as the refining.
Definitely. We are the pioneers,
and connoisseur process.
Yeah. This is the epicenter of like where all this technology comes from. Actually, Ray's going to hopefully get a special guest on the podcast to really talk in depth about this. Your ears are going to be blown off.
Yep.
Yeah. And one last thing, I think terpenes is another big thing with distillate is they can sell it to you better if they say they added terpenes in it, or they put. So basically what I'm saying is you'll have a distillate, right? And it's a THC distillate, and they'll re-add either cannabis terpenes or fruit terpenes to get that kind of smell and taste when you're smoking it back to a normal cannabis plant when you're smoking it. A lot of companies that have distillate products, they'll put like fruit terpenes. So basically, let's say you have a blueberry indica cartridge. They're going to put blueberry terpenes from a freaking, no joke, blueberry into your cartridge.
Versus a cannabis terpene.
And
I don't think a lot or all of them do that, but you're right. I mean, I feel like we would be surprised.
It's cheaper.
On some of the newer brands, like what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, you're going to pay the piper for a full spectrum cannabis terpene cartridge, but you know what? You are getting a much better experience. At me.
Like $70 a half gram cartridge though is like
if you can afford
to get what you really want,
Yep, if you can afford it, do it. But I understand, believe me, if you can only do
it's wild.
Yeah, it is wild.
But it's good to know, and you can. I mean, hey, I'm not saying I can smoke the best, finest stuff all the time, But I like to know, and sometimes if I want something, I will, save up a little bit to wait on that versus.
Most definitely, it's all about education. I'd rather y'all know this than not. So
because there's different ways too, and maybe we can talk about them in an episode to like press and make your own wax out of.
Yeah, your own flour and stuff like that.
There's different rosin squishers and
all
ways
that kind of
to
stuff.
do it. So I mean, it gets extremely high tech to where they're not even using heat or water, nothing.
That's wild. Mechanical extraction.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Well, I hope y'all learned something, because you know what, I sure did. And yeah, if you can afford it, try to get full spectrum. But yeah, just know that you will be getting much more synergistic entourage effect.
Know what you're smoking.
Know what you're smoking.
Hashtag no boof.
Hey, and by the way, we just got on the WeedTube, by the way, guys. We've had some problems uploading with it before, but we are on the WeedTube. We're going to put some old videos that we've had in the archives up there, but we're also going to try and put some new stuff.
Especially with our garden this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've been getting a big response from you guys about wanting to learn how to grow and stuff, and we love it. Ask us more questions.
Hell yeah.
Tag along the way.
Yep. And Ray's Instagram is BroccoliBay420. Mine is Perform Higher. And of course, America's Podcast is America's Podcast. Hey. And as always, stay lit. I hope y'all like these more focused, concentrated episodes. We sure do. We can really get into depth and talk about it. And because I know we do longer episodes and we talk about 5 different things in depth, but we're going to try and cut it down a little bit.
Yep, hit you with some short stuff. So
yeah.
Short and sweet.
Speaking of that, let's go smoke a full spec.
Hey,
cart.
Let's do it.
Hey, peace up, 8 ton down.